Where would you get the noise from the fly? You'd make the noise.
We'd make the noise ourselves,
Well, let's
I'm
hear
not
your
paying
fly
for no
noise.
fly to do it.
Blake, we are back again today for another Would I Lie to You special, and we are chipping away once again to the Bob Mortimer compilation.
Good old Bob, I love it.
Let's get into it, and this is my Keith.
Yes, let's see who Keith is. Hello, Keith.
So, Bob, first of all. Bob, what is Keith to you?
This is Keith. He's my oldest friend, and when we were at school together, we hid a dictaphone in the classroom ceiling to confuse our teacher.
David Harewood?
This is my old teacher, Keith. I once had to claim I wasn't me when I met him in a cafe, as I was in character preparing for Homeland.
And finally, Lee, your relationship with Keith.
This is Keith, and his hawk... yes.
I love that we just have the same reaction to David now. Like, you just know with Lee, it's just going to be ridiculous.
He just really tries to sell it, doesn't he?
You can see the smile on his face, like he knows how ridiculous his stories are.
Start. Well, go with it. Yeah. This is Keith, and his hawk was supposed to land on my arm at a village fete, but instead stole the wig from the man next to me and flew off into a tree.
No!
So there we are. It's Bob's classroom prankster. It's
Too
David's
much detail.
blank buddy, or it's Lee's hawk handler. David's team, where do you start?
So, yes, David, he was a teacher at your school.
Very briefly.
What, a whole lesson?
I mean, I don't know if... I mean, I would see him.
But he didn't teach you?
No, not teach
He was
me.
someone who hung around a school, and he was... charitably, you assumed he was a teacher.
But if he was at the school a short period of time, how did you even recognise him in the cafe?
Oh, I knew it was him. He walked into the cafe and he said, "Hi, David," and basically I blanked him. It was literally the month before I went to America when I was doing Homeland, and I'd just been to see my dialect coach. He basically said I have to stay in my American voice. So
Could you not have explained that to him in your American voice?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I think you
doing
tripped
a
early.
roll here.
I don't think it was ever as good as that, John, to be fair.
I basically just had to say, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Oh, I'm remembering you now. Do the voice a bit more
I said,
straight.
"I don't know what you're talking about."
Ooh, he did weird things to me.
They sound almost shocked that he could do the accent. Like, that's not the unbelievable part. Of course he can. He's an actor in American TV shows. Like, he could do the accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think he tripped early, because why wouldn't you just explain that to the person? Like, I've got to just keep this accent up because I'm obviously an actor.
I thought he tried to explain something and then sort of circle back and, try and explain something else that may have been more relevant. But it also seemed like he could have just been like, no, oh shit, I'm going to put myself in a trap if I continue the way that I'm going. So I have to rewind and, find a different path.
It's odd that this early in the game that we're ruling out two people and neither of them are Bob. That's not a good sign.
No, it's not. Well, let's just save it for Big Bob.
So your dialect coach said, you're in this role, you need to stay in this character.
Yeah.
Now the lesson's over, let's go to a very public place.
Yeah.
We are likely to encounter several people.
Well, that's what you have to do. You have to stay in that voice. You have to have the confidence to stay in your voice.
Why can't you just, turn it on like an actor?
Oh, that's a cheap shot, Sarah.
I have to say, I did phone him up afterwards and apologise.
So you had his number?
Yeah.
You stayed in touch with the teacher you barely remember.
Would it be fair to say the hawk's looking a bit more plausible?
So, David, who would you like to question next?
Bob, remind us of your allegation.
When we were at school together, we hid a dictaphone machine in the ceiling tiles to interrupt the lesson.
So not to record, but to play stuff?
Yeah.
What sort of stuff?
Oh, okay.
Well, it was important to keep a gap at the beginning, so we let it run for about 15 minutes. And then there was the noise of a fly. brief period, then another period, to confuse the teacher.
Where would you get the noise from the fly? You'd make the noise.
We'd make the noise ourselves,
Let's hear
I'm
your
not paying
fly
for no
noise.
fly to do it.
Let's hear your fly.
You know,
It does sound like a fly.
Can I hear your bee?
we didn't do a bee.
Do you know how to do a bee? Just like that fly.
Oh, no, it's more wholesome if it's a bee, isn't it?
Show me the difference, David.
Well, I'm not...
Do
well,
it.
I'd say, OK, a bee would be a sort of a foot...
No, that's a
Whereas
bumblebee.
a fly is a...
Do you see the way he just slipped straight in and out of character?
So yes, there was silence,
Yeah.
then a little bit of fly, silence, a little bit of fly, and then, quite loudly, but not to frighten anyone, the word wolf.
I 100% believe this.
This is looking pretty plausible compared to the others anyway.
A bit more silence, then Speedway Stadium.
Speedway Stadium.
Do you know, the idea was just to say kind of random things. He was a really nice teacher called Bill Whitlingham.
How did...
As much as I 100% believe it's made up, that's actually quite a regular sounding name compared to his other names.
You know, Mortimer, Mack's pretty common in Australia, but like even a lot of these surnames in the like video we're watching are not very common in my mind. So
if the last Bob Mortimer video is anything to go by in the comments section, we're going to have someone named Whitlingham reach out and say that that's a very common name, much like the by the ways that I've now met through our previous Bob Mortimer video.
Bill Whitlingham react to these random sounds?
Well, Mr. Whitlingham left the room and said, "Can you sort this out by the time I've gone back? Can you sort whatever it is that's going on?" And there was a cupboard in the corner where, interestingly, it had like exercise books in it, pens and that, but it also had, in a little cage, a hand lion, which is a robotic, it's a battery-operated thing.
Why do you just...
Now we go into the more Bob Mortimer-esque kind of story. What is a hand lion?
like, is it also weird that whenever I hear a Bob Mortimer story, I'm always like, anytime he introduces someone new, no matter male or female, I just envision Bob Mortimer in whatever that person is wearing.
You just saying any words that come into your head in any order.
It's a hand lion, and if you
Hand lion.
it's a robotic, animatronic hand lion, yeah? And if you'd been particularly good, he would put it on your hand and set it to lick it. If you'd been particularly...
Is this like a clockwork
What is he
lion?
talking
It was remote control.
It was
I promise you.
remote control.
Remote control. He had the controller in his desk, and he said, "You've
the
been
actual
such a
hand
good boy.
lion-
Get out the hand lion, and you'll get a lick." And if you'd been bad, you put him on your hand and you strike. You'd strike at your hand.
So the hand lion had two settings. It could lick or it could strike.
Yes, good boy, bad boy.
Right, very
Good boy,
sensible.
bad boy. Now, the only problem with it, of course, was...
What, this story?
The only problem was...
I so badly want to Google right now a hand lion. I'll wait until afterwards. I want to see the story play out. But have you ever heard of this thing before?
No, I literally agreed that you just got two words and mixed them together.
A hand lion.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with Bob. Like, it sounds like it's something that's completely made up. But then he follows it with, like, really unique details. So, like, it can lick and it can strike. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's just so detailed.
Yeah, but like at the same time, you could have a foot sheep and it just be some sort of foot massager, you know, because it's the wool.
That's a good point.
I don't know, like maybe that was too easy from what he's just said, but it's another one of Bob's that has to make you question.
Don't tell me the hawk story is going to be the true story.
Please, no, it can't be.
It can't be.
Because if the batteries got low, it would get constipated. No, anyway, but in this cupboard, so we got up on the cupboard.
You climb onto the cupboard that the hand lion is housed in.
Probably asleep.
Right, you reach up onto the ceiling tile.
Take out the dictaphone.
Switch it off.
Yep.
Mr. Whitlingham comes back in.
Yes.
What happens?
He's nervously awaiting another, edict from above. Doesn't come, we carry on with the lesson. British government and politics it was.
There was a lesson called British Government and Politics?
Yeah.
I'll year on that.
2 years. It was A-level.
For the sixth formers,
Yes.
a hand lion. Hand lion that can either lick or strike was what was used to express praise or the opposite to these 17 or 18-year-old students.
And it was very effective.
All right. Would you like to move on to the final claim?
So, Lee, tell the story about Keith.
I was at a village fete.
I
And
look so
was a
nervous to
village
ask
fete.
that question.
I was helping out.
What village?
Thames Ditton.
Why were you helping out at Thames Ditton Fete?
Because I don't live too far away from there, and they asked me to help out, and I did a few little things, like I did a bit of tombola, a bit of announcing. Then I went over to judge the pig racing. The usual things you do at a fete, you know.
The pig racing?
Yeah. I don't know why I judged it, because surely first past the post, but...
Well, no,
He got caught in his own story then for a second. I truly believe that he probably does do like little mini hosting things at local fairs. Like that doesn't surprise me. But we'll see.
I was doing a case of a dead heat.
and what happened with the hawk and Keith and the wig?
One of the things I had to do was to volunteer to stand there and learn. He had the little headpiece on where he'd teach the crowd basic falconry, I believe we call it. I stick the glove on and then hold this little thing. I don't know what it was, but I'm doing this.
A small morsel of meat.
Thank God you've been to one, because I haven't. Yeah. I'm holding a small morsel of meat. Then what happens? And
then the swan comes down.
The swan came down. So the hawk comes over, right? It comes over. There's a person missing from this story, and it's the mayor, right? The local mayor. I can't say it in I always
Mayor.
The mayor, right? The
So
mayor
you're
of
standing
London.
next to a horse.
Yeah, so the local... So the mayor is doing his bit, but the mayor has got a wig on, right? The hawk flies over to go and land on my hand, but he lands on the mayor's head, and so he gets caught up in his what should we call them? Talons. He gets caught up in the talons, and then in the sort of panic, the bird sort of... And he can't release this wig, and he flies off, and he goes into the tree. I said, why didn't he go for the meat? And he said, I genuinely think the gold chain caught his eye. There was a bit of confusion for a second, and he just did a bit of an emergency landing on a mayor's wig at Thames Ditton Fete. What's there not to believe?
Did you cry, oh no, the mayor's hair's over there?
All right, so David's team is Keith.
What a way to end it.
Bob's classroom gangster, David's blanked buddy, or Lee's hawk handler.
Strangely enough, after hearing all of those three, Lee Mack's story isn't that implausible, except you could clearly tell he doesn't believe it. That little comment at the end.
Usually he's the one having to come up with like really ridiculous stories. What if that was his way of just like, this is genuine, so I'm going to try and make it seem like a lie?
That's it. He's the seasoned player at this game, so he could very well be telling the truth, or he could be lying. I thought it was like Lee sounded the most plausible, but it sounds like he doesn't believe it, so I don't think it's necessarily him. There's a couple of factors into me leaning towards Bob. One, it's not Bob's craziest story.
Well, yeah.
It is quite a
true.
regular kind of story for a Bob story.
Yeah.
The weirdest part about it was the hand lion thing, which really isn't anything to do with the story itself. Like, I can imagine him putting a dictaphone up in the rooftops and just messing with teachers.
Yeah.
If him and his friends would go searching for the Gulf Stream, then they're definitely okay with putting a speaker in a roof.
Wow, I didn't even think about it like that. Absolutely, it could be true now. So yeah, okay. I guess I'm on a little bit on the fence here too with both stories, but yeah, definitely not the first one.
All right, so you're going to go Lee?
Yeah, I'll go Lee.
And I'll go to Bob as well, just to mix it up a bit.
Nice.
And as I said before, never bet against Bob. It's silly.
I know. Well, why are you letting me go? Well, what's done is done. Let's go.
What's done is done. Let's find out these results.
I believe in Bob until the fact that he was 18 and the hand lion. I'm leaning towards David.
I think I'm leaning towards David.
I think
What?
it's Bob, and I think he panicked because he knew we were onto him, so he went on a ridiculous riff about a hand lion to throw us off the scent. I'll go Bob, but
I think that's probably the most accurate thing anyone said so far.
More than likely.
He wanted to make the story more ridiculous by adding that element into it.
Tara?
I'm going to go David.
We'll go David.
You're saying David? Keith,
That shocks me.
please reveal your true identity.
My name's Keith, and Bob and I recorded voices. We hid the dictaphone on the ceiling.
Of course. I'm curious if there is ever a This Is My where it's not someone Bob knows.
Like, they went to school together too. It's just like, I was almost going to say, as soon as he gave that information up at the start, like, he actually looks like someone that you would go to school with. But at the same time, that guy also was looked exactly the part from each and every person's story.
Oh, yeah, I looked at him like he's got Falconer vibes to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Keith is Bob's classroom prankster.
I would never have believed all that stuff about a hand line was completely true.
Thanks very much, Keith.
Thank you.
All right, so guys, what's a hand line?
Yeah, please link us a headline. I cannot picture it. I'm picturing those, the only thing I can picture is, you know those like gold, I think they're kittens that have like the moving hand? That you see at like Chinese restaurants?
Yeah.
That's the only kind of contraption where it's like a little, I don't know, a little thing that either like puts its hand in and out or like a tongue comes out. I don't know. I can't picture it. It sounds ridiculous. Yet, let alone it's remote controlled. Well, once again, it is confirmed that classic saying at the casinos, always bet on Bob.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get it right 99% of the time.
Somehow.
Somehow. It's so strange. But guys, thank you very much for suggesting this compilation. We're loving going through this. We're about a third of the way through it, so still plenty more Bob to come. If you have any more Would I Lie to You clips or any kind of comedy clips you want us to check us out, please leave it in the comment section below. And if you would like to see more reactions from Would I Lie to You, hit on this button right here for an ever-growing playlist. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.